The discovery. The void between galaxies was not meant to hold secrets. It was emptiness defined, a vacuum so profound that even light seemed reluctant to cross it. Yet here, in this impossible nowhere, floated something that defied explanation. "Magnify again," ordered Captain Velaris, her crystalline exoskeleton catching the dim light of the bridge. The myriad Council exploration vessel Boundless Inquiry had been dispatched to investigate unusual energy readings at the edge of Council space. What they'd found instead was this: a structure of impossible proportions suspended in the intergalactic medium. "Structure composition unknown," reported Science Officer Trazik, his 6 appendages working furiously across the sensor panel. "The outer shell appears to be a carbon metallic lattice, unlike any known construction technique. Energy signatures are minimal but complex." The structure before them resembled a massive geometric flower, kilometers across, with petal-like segments arranged around a central hub. No propulsion systems were visible, no defense mechanisms detected, just silent, elegant engineering hanging in the void where nothing should exist. Council records show no civilization capable of building at this scale, Velaris said, her compound eyes fixated on the main viewer. "Especially not out here, between galaxies." Navigator Phylon, a gaseous entity contained within a specialized environment suit, drifted closer to the captain. "There's something familiar about the design principles," the navigator whispered, voice synthesizer crackling with uncertainty. "The mathematical harmony, the proportional balance. I've seen this somewhere." "Where?" Velaris demanded. "In historical archives. These are human design principles." The bridge fell silent. The word human carried weight in Council space, a weight of failure, of regret, of an evolutionary experiment cut tragically short. Humanity had reached for the stars centuries ago, made first contact, joined the galactic community, and then vanished during the Collapse Wars. Their homeworld, Earth, was now a restricted memorial zone, a testament to the Council's greatest diplomatic failure. "Impossible," Velaris finally said. "Humans never developed technology of this sophistication, and even if they had, they've been extinct for 3 centuries. Request permission to send a research team." Trazik interjected, antenna quivering with scientific curiosity. Velaris hesitated. Council protocols were clear regarding unidentified structures. Observe, document, report. Direct interaction required authorization from Central Command, a bureaucratic process that could take weeks. But something about this discovery called to her, stirred her professional instincts. Whatever this was, it was important. "Prepare a shuttle. Minimum crew. Full containment protocols," she ordered, ignoring the surprised clicks and whistles from her officers. "I want to know what we're dealing with before we alert the Council." The research team consisted of 5 specialists, Trazik leading, accompanied by an energy expert, a xenoarchaeologist, a communications technician, and a security officer. Their shuttle approached the structure cautiously, sensors probing for any response to their presence. There was none. "No reaction to our approach," Trazik reported. "Either the structure is completely dormant, or it doesn't consider us a threat. Or it's watching us," muttered Krenva, the security officer, checking his pulse disruptor for the 3rd time. The shuttle docked with surprising ease, connecting to what appeared to be an airlock designed for vessels much larger than theirs. The inner doors opened to reveal corridors bathed in soft blue light that activated as they approached. "It's responding to our presence," whispered Leia, the xenorchaeologist, her feathered crest flattening in alarm. "The system is active." They moved deeper into the structure, documenting everything. The interior architecture was elegant but practical, curved hallways, leading to vast chambers filled with equipment whose purpose they could only guess at. Everything was built to a scale that suggested the creators were bipedal humanoids of average height, consistent with human proportions. In what appeared to be a central control room, they found the first concrete evidence. Embedded in a console was a symbol, a simplified representation of Earth's solar system, with humanity's homeworld highlighted. This doesn't make sense, Leia said, examining the ancient controls. Humans never expanded beyond their local cluster. They didn't have the technology to reach intergalactic space. Perhaps this is older than we think, suggested Trazik. Or perhaps our historical records are incomplete. Darrison, the energy specialist, called from across the room. I've identified a power source. It's still functional, just dormant. The design is ingenious. It's been conserving energy for what might be centuries. Can you activate it? Trazik asked. I shouldn't, Darrison replied, even as his tentacles explored the controls with professional fascination. But I think I could. The interface is surprisingly intuitive. Do it, Trazik ordered, ignoring the protests from Krenva. Minimal systems only. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Darrison activated what he believed to be the basic operational systems. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire structure hummed to life around them. Lights brightened, consoles activated, and a holographic display blossomed in the center of the room, a three-dimensional star map of unprecedented detail. This is remarkable, breathed Leia. The cartographic precision is beyond anything in our databases. This maps regions even the Council hasn't explored. But their wonder turned to alarm as a sequence initiated without their input. A signal, powerful and directed, burst from the station, aimed toward a specific point in deep space. What have you done? Krenva demanded, weapon now drawn. Nothing, Darrison insisted. It must have been automated, a beacon activated by the power-up sequence. Within minutes, the boundless inquiry was hailing them urgently. Research team, return immediately, came Captain Velaris's tense voice. Our sensors detect an extremely powerful transmission emanating from your location. You've triggered something. Get back here now. Their return to the ship was hurried and intense. On the bridge, the atmosphere was one of controlled panic. The signal is continuing, Velaris informed them. And it's powerful enough to reach beyond our galaxy. We need to inform the Council immediately. And tell them what? Challenged Trazik. That we've discovered a human-built installation that should not exist, with technology we cannot explain. That we activated it against protocols. We tell them the truth, Velaris replied firmly. And prepare for whatever comes next. The Council's response was swift and divided. Some members demanded immediate containment of the structure. Others insisted on further research before taking action. The military faction called for a defensive fleet, while the diplomatic court argued for patience. In the midst of these debates, the boundless inquiry remained on station, monitoring the structure and the continuing signal. 3 days later, they got their answer. Captain, called the sensor officer, voice raised in alarm. Multiple objects approaching at high velocity. Emerging from superluminal travel of unknown configuration. On the viewer, space itself seemed to fold, creating apertures through which vessels emerged. Sleek, gleaming ships with organic curves belying their obvious technological superiority. They moved with precision and purpose, taking up positions around the structure. No match in any database, reported Trazik, who had remained aboard rather than returned to Council space. Design, propulsion, and energy signatures all unknown. Are they responding to hails? Asked Velaris, mandibles tight with tension. No need, came a new voice, clear, confident, and speaking perfect Council standard. It emanated from their own communication system. We are already here. The bridge crew looked around in confusion until a holographic figure materialized in their midst, a bipedal being, clearly humanoid, wearing a fitted garment of shifting patterns that seemed to reflect the starfield outside. The face was unmistakably similar to ancient human records, yet subtly different, more refined, with eyes that held a depth of awareness that sent shivers through Velaris's exoskeleton. I am Admiral Talos of the Architect Fleet, the figure announced. You have activated one of our way stations, and we have answered. After 7 centuries of separation, humanity has returned to known space. Valeris stood, trying to project authority she suddenly did not feel. Humans are extinct. The species died out during the Collapse Wars. The hologram's expression showed something between amusement and pity. A convenient narrative, perhaps. The truth is more complex. We did not die. We departed, voluntarily removed ourselves from a galactic community that was tearing itself apart. We retreated beyond your reach to evolve on our own terms. That's impossible. Trazik interjected. No human vessels ever achieved the technology necessary for intergalactic travel. Not publicly, Talos corrected. What the Council knew of human capabilities was carefully curated. Even as our official representatives engaged in diplomatic relations, our brightest minds worked in secret, developing technologies we knew would be coveted, weaponized, or suppressed by the greater galactic powers. "Why reveal yourselves now?" demanded Valeris. "Because you found us," Talos replied simply. "The way station you discovered is one of many we established as we expanded our reach. Its activation protocol was designed specifically to alert us if Council species ever ventured this far. It means you've progressed, perhaps enough to handle what we've become." On the main viewer, more ships continued to emerge from fold space. Dozens, then hundreds. Not a fleet. An armada. "Captain," whispered the tactical officer. "Preliminary analysis suggests their technological capabilities exceed our most advanced systems by at least 2 centuries of development." Talos smiled as if hearing the assessment. "We call ourselves the architects now. In our isolation, we've learned to build and shape reality in ways your science would struggle to comprehend. And after centuries of watching from afar, we've decided it's time to rejoin the conversation." Are those ships' weapons?" Valeris asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Everything is a weapon if necessity demands it," Talos replied. "But we did not come to conquer. We came to reclaim our place, not as supplicants, not as enemies, but as equals. The Council once wrote us off as a failed experiment. Now you will acknowledge us as peers." The implications were staggering. A human civilization that had not only survived but thrived, developing in isolation to heights the Council species could scarcely imagine. The political balance of the galaxy would be forever altered by their return. "I must inform the Council," Valeris said, finding her diplomatic training through the shock. "By all means," Talos agreed. "Tell them humanity extends greetings after our long absence. Tell them we are not the same species they once knew. And tell them," his holographic eyes seemed to flash with internal light, "we remember everything." As the transmission ended, the bridge of the boundless inquiry remained silent, every being processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. Outside, the human ships, the Architect fleet, took up positions around the way station, their presence alone rewriting the future of galactic politics. Humanity had returned from the void, and nothing would ever be the same. The reckoning. News of humanity's return spread through Council space like wildfire. The Myriad Council, 27 species united under principles of cooperation and collective governance, convened an emergency session for the first time in 5 decades. Captain Valeris stood before the assembled delegates, her testimony delivered with the precise clarity of one who understood its historical significance. The chamber, a vast amphitheater carved from living crystal, hummed with whispers and electronic communications as species of all physiologies processed the implications. "The human vessels have made no aggressive moves," she concluded, "but their technological capabilities are unsettling. Our initial scans suggest innovations that defy our current understanding of physics." High Counselor Xivan, an ancient Pellerin whose translucent skin revealed the slow, deliberate circulation of luminescent fluids, leaned forward. "You say they call themselves architects now. What exactly are they claiming to have built?" "They were not specific," Valeris admitted, "but based on our observations of their vessels and the way station we discovered, I believe they've been reshaping stellar material, perhaps entire systems." The revelation sent another wave of murmurs through the chamber. Stellar engineering was theoretical at best for Council science. The manipulation of stars and their planetary systems considered the realm of distant future technology. "We cannot allow this," declared Councillor Gritton of the militaristic Tevan Dominion, his armored exoskeleton clattering as he rose. "If these humans possess such capabilities, they represent an existential threat to established order. We must contain them immediately." Contain them. A sound like wind through crystal chimes, laughter from the Melidian representative. With what? Did you not hear the captain's report? Their technology outclasses our most advanced systems. The debate raged for hours, factions forming and reforming as the political implications became clear. Some saw opportunity in humanity's return, a source of technological advancement, potential allies against the threats lurking beyond explored space. Others saw only danger, an unknown power with unclear intentions and unmatched capabilities. In the end, they settled on what the Council always chose when faced with uncertainty: a diplomatic mission. A delegation would meet with these architects, establish protocols for interaction, and most importantly, assess their true intentions. Velaris, to her surprise, was appointed to lead this mission. Her first-hand knowledge of the encounter made her the logical choice, despite her protests that she was an explorer, not a diplomat. Sometimes the best diplomats are those who seek understanding before advantage. High Counselor Sivan had told her privately. Besides, they've already met you. There's value in a familiar face. And so the boundless inquiry, now accompanied by 4 additional council vessels representing key political factions, returned to the intergalactic way station where the human fleet awaited. What they found shocked even Velaris, who thought herself prepared. In the days of their absence, the humans had transformed the region. The way station now anchored a sprawling complex of interconnected structures, habitats, research facilities, and installations of unknown purpose, all constructed with the same elegant efficiency. "They built all this in less than a standard week," whispered Trazik in awe as they observed from the bridge. "Do you understand what that means for their manufacturing capabilities?" Before Velaris could respond, a transmission came through. Admiral Talos, requesting her presence on the central facility. Just her, not the full delegation. The council representatives immediately objected, citing protocol violations and security concerns. "This is how it begins," she told them, already heading for the shuttle bay. "They're testing us. If we insist on rigid protocols now, we set a tone of distrust for all future interactions." She went alone, against the protests of her security chief and the council observers. The shuttle journey was brief, guided by automated systems to a docking port that seemed designed specifically for her vessel. Inside, she found corridors of a material that resembled polished stone, yet glowed softly from within, lighting her path forward. Admiral Talos awaited her in a chamber whose walls displayed a real-time holographic representation of the surrounding space, so perfect in its rendering that it felt like floating in the void itself. "Captain Velaris," he greeted her. In person, his presence was even more commanding. Though human in form, there was something transcendent in his bearing, as if his consciousness extended beyond his physical shell. "Thank you for coming alone. It simplifies matters." "The council representatives aren't pleased," she replied honestly. "The council rarely is, in my experience." A hint of a smile crossed his face. "But you and I can speak plainly, without the weight of centuries of political posturing. Why did you request me specifically?" "Because you found us through curiosity, not agenda. Because you activated our way station despite regulations when you sensed its importance. You're a scientist first, Captain. That matters to us." He gestured, and the space around them shifted, the starfield replaced by images of worlds, vibrant ecosystems, soaring cities of impossible architecture, space habitats that dwarfed anything the Council had built. "This is our civilization now," Talos explained. "We left known space with barely a dozen generation ships, carrying fewer than 50,000 humans. We were refugees, fleeing a conflict we couldn't win. But we had one advantage, a scientific breakthrough our leaders kept hidden from the Council. Fold space technology, Velaris guessed, remembering how the human ships had arrived. That was just the beginning. We discovered how to manipulate dimensional boundaries, how to accelerate matter assembly, how to communicate instantaneously across vast distances. Most importantly, we learned to reshape stellar material, to build new worlds from the rubble of dead systems, to ignite dying stars. The images shifted again, showing a process that defied comprehension. Humans directing energies that literally reordered matter at a stellar scale, forming new planets, stabilizing a dying sun. We became creators, Talos said softly. Out of necessity at first, then out of vision. Where we traveled, we built. Where systems lay dead or dying, we renewed them. We evolved, not just technologically, but as a species. Our connection to technology deepened until the line between creator and creation blurred. Velaris felt a chill. You modified yourselves. We enhanced ourselves, he corrected, not through crude genetic manipulation, but through symbiosis with the systems we created. Some of us have become more than human, living interfaces between consciousness and creation. And now you've returned to Council space. Why? You clearly don't need us. Talos was silent for a moment, his expression growing serious. Because we've discovered something out there in the dark between galaxies. Something ancient, vast, and awakening. Something even we cannot face alone. Before he could elaborate, alarms sounded. A holographic display shifted to show one of the Council vessels firing on a human installation. Not the Boundless Inquiry, the Tevan warship that had accompanied them. It seems your Council has differing opinions on diplomacy, Talos said, his voice hardening as he issued commands through an invisible interface. This wasn't authorized, Velaris insisted, watching in horror as the Tevan vessel launched a barrage of high-energy projectiles toward the human structures. They're acting independently. She expected devastating retaliation, the full might of the technologically superior human fleet brought to bear against the aggressor. Instead, the projectiles simply stopped in space, held in stasis by invisible forces, then dissolved into component particles that scattered harmlessly into the void. 3 centuries ago, that attack would have sparked a war, Talos said calmly. Today, it's barely an inconvenience, but the intent behind it, that concerns me. Velaris activated her communicator, demanding an explanation from the Tevan commander. The response was chilling. We obtained data on their stellar manipulation technology, came the reply. The humans possess planet-killer capabilities. Our faction has concluded they must be neutralized before they can deploy these weapons against Council worlds. Stand down immediately, Velaris ordered. Your actions violate the diplomatic mission parameters. The diplomatic mission is compromised, the Tevan commander responded. The human has already subverted you with its demonstrations. We are proceeding with containment. The transmission cut. On the display, the Tevan vessel began charging its main cannon, a graviton accelerator capable of rupturing planetary crusts. They don't understand what they're dealing with, Velaris said desperately to Talos. Your technology, your capabilities. They're interpreting everything through a lens of military threat assessment. Then perhaps they need a clearer demonstration of what we truly are, Talos replied, his voice eerily calm. The holographic display zoomed out, showing the full human fleet surrounding the waystation complex. As one, the vessels began to move, not toward the Tevan ship, but into a precise geometric formation around a patch of seemingly empty space. What are you doing? Velaris asked. Creating understanding. Energy beams connected the human ships, forming a lattice of light. Within this network, space itself began to distort. Matter condensed from the void. Hydrogen, helium, heavier elements spiraling together, accelerating processes that should take millions of years. In the center of the formation, a star began to form. Not a full-sized star, a miniature version, precisely controlled, its fusion process regulated by the surrounding energy field. A perfect demonstration of the human mastery over fundamental forces. "This is what we are, Captain," Talos said as the newborn star stabilized, casting its light across the assembled vessels. "Not destroyers. Creators. We don't build weapons to annihilate worlds. We build worlds themselves." The Tevan vessel had ceased its attack, sensors undoubtedly overwhelmed by readings that defied their scientific understanding. The other Council ships maintained position, their communications channels silent with shock. "The cosmos is vast and largely dead," Talos continued. "Dead stars, dead planets, dead systems where life never took hold or extinguished itself before reaching maturity. We've spent centuries learning to rekindle that potential, to create where there was emptiness." Velaris stared at the miniature star, her scientific mind racing to comprehend the principles behind its creation. "This technology, if shared with the Council, would be weaponized immediately," Talos finished for her, "just as your Tevan allies attempted to do. Before any sharing of knowledge, there must be evolution of understanding." A new alert sounded. The holographic display shifted to show multiple vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel, a Council defense fleet responding to the Tevan distress call. "It seems diplomacy has failed before it truly began," Talos observed. "No," Velaris insisted. "This is a misunderstanding, an escalation by one faction. The majority of the Council genuinely seeks peaceful contact. Perhaps." Talos studied her with those unsettling eyes that seemed to perceive more than merely physical light. "You believe this sincerely." "I do." She met his gaze without flinching. "Humanity's voluntary departure from known space left wounds in our collective history. The Council mourned what we thought was your extinction. Many of our scholars believe that had humanity remained, our technological and cultural development would have followed a different, perhaps better path." Before Talos could respond, a massive energy surge registered on all sensors, not from any of the assembled vessels, but from deep space, a directed pulse of exotic particles tearing through subspace toward their position. "Gravitational shear bomb," Talos identified immediately, "designed to rupture spacetime itself. Military-grade Council technology. Not Council-sanctioned," Velaris insisted, even as she watched the approaching wavefront with horror. Such weapons had been theorized but banned under Council conventions. Talos made a gesture, and the human fleet moved with synchronized precision. Half the vessels accelerated to intercept the gravitational weapon, while the others formed a protective barrier around the Council ships, including the Tevan vessel that had attacked them. "What are you doing?" Velaris demanded. "They tried to destroy you, and now we're protecting them," Talos replied simply. "That is the difference between our kinds, Captain. The difference between those who see power as a means to dominate and those who see it as a responsibility to preserve." The human interceptors met the gravitational weapon head-on. Instead of attempting to destroy it, they created a controlled dimensional fold, a pocket of altered spacetime that absorbed and redirected the weapon's energy, transforming destructive force into a swirling eddy of light and matter. "Magnificent," whispered Velaris, scientific wonder overriding diplomatic concern. "You didn't counter the weapon. You repurposed it." "Destruction is easy," Talos said. "Transformation requires mastery." He turned to her, suddenly serious. "This attack wasn't launched by your Council. Our sensors traced its origin to a region of space beyond your borders, a sector we've been monitoring for decades." A new holographic display appeared, showing a region of space unfamiliar to Velaris. Within it, vast structures moved in the darkness between stars, constructs of metal and energy, geometrically perfect and utterly alien. "The threat I mentioned earlier," Talos explained. "We call them the symmetric. They're not organic life as you understand it, nor artificial intelligence as we created it. They're something else, a form of existence that perceives ordered biological life as an aberration in the universe's entropy. They'd been awakening gradually, establishing outposts in the spaces between galaxies. Why haven't we detected them? Velaris asked. Because they don't want to be found until they're ready. This attack was meant to eliminate both our forces and your diplomatic mission, to prevent an alliance before it could form. Understanding dawned on Velaris. That's why you've returned. You need allies against these. Symmetric. We need the Council, yes, not for your technology, which we've surpassed, but for your diversity. The symmetric target specific patterns of thought and development. Humanity alone presents a single point of failure. The Council's 27 species, each with unique neural architecture and cultural paradigms, create a complexity they find difficult to predict. The situation had transformed entirely. What began as a tense diplomatic contact was rapidly evolving into a potential alliance against an existential threat. The Council Defense Fleet, witnessing the human protection of their vessels, had powered down weapons systems and opened communication channels. We faced extinction once, Talos said. We rebuilt ourselves, refined our potential, and evolved beyond our limitations. We will not face extinction again. Not ours, not yours, not any species that values creation over entropy. He extended his hand to Velaris, a human gesture of agreement and partnership that transcended species boundaries. The Council wrote the final chapter of humanity's story centuries ago, he said. Now we return to write our own future, and perhaps yours as well. Will you help us reclaim our place in the narrative of galactic civilization? Velaris looked at the outstretched hand, then at the display showing the human vessels still maintaining their protective formation around the Council ships. The choice seemed clear. The Council will have questions, she said, reaching out with her crystalline appendage to touch Talos' hand. Fears to overcome, politics to navigate. As will my people, he acknowledged. But today we've proven that when faced with destruction, we chose protection. Let that be the foundation of what comes next. In the void of space, the miniature star created by the human fleet continued to shine, a small but perfect light against the cosmic darkness, a symbol, perhaps, of what was possible when creation triumphed over conflict. Humanity had not just returned from the void, they had mastered it. And in doing so, they offered the galaxy not conquest, but something far more valuable, a future.